All right, we are all set to go, which means turning off the air conditioning. Yeah, both the zones, turning them off. Getting into drive mode, lowering the car to the lowest most possible position. Yeah, there it's dropping. It says ground clearance, ride height dropping. Actually get into park right now. Let the ride height come to the lowest. Meanwhile, let's get into sport mode. Yeah, we are in sport mode. Let's get into sport individual. Configure individual. Individual is already configured to the max. Everything in sport here as well. All right. So we have reduced the ground clearance to the maximum. Stop start system is off. Coming into drive mode, getting into manual or sport mode on the left. And okay, hey BMW, sport displays.
Sport displays.
Okay, that also is done. And yeah, handbrake down as well. Left foot on the brake. But before we get right foot on the accelerator, I forgot to turn off traction control itself. Where's the traction control button? It is here. Traction control off. Okay, keep it pressed. And DSC is completely off. Right foot on the accelerator, launch control active, and off we go. Really, the performance is supremely sure-footed, and as you can see, the road is supremely wet. Yeah, it is extremely wet. In fact, there's water logging at certain places as well, but no issues for the BMW X5 in spite of the fact that I've actually turned off traction control completely. Well, that is the advantage of the XDrive system, which channels power more to the rear wheels than the front, but can kick in power to the front to ensure there is good amount of stability on offer. This happens to be a 3-liter straight 6 motor, which happens to produce 265 horsepower at 4000 RPM. Launch control active, and off we go. So it produces 620 Newton meters of torque between 1500 to 2500 RPM. That is the reason why this motor feels so lively throughout. There's good amount of low end punch. In fact, low end lag is very well contained in spite of this being a turbocharged motor, and thus drivability is great too. Meanwhile, there's good amount of mid-range as well. However, top end isn't that great, but it does rev freely all the way to 5000 RPM. In fact, now if I actually click on the pedals or even take control using the Triptronic function, then it will not upshift unless and until I decide to do so, giving me complete manual control of things. There you can see it revs nice and strong. There you can see it revs nice and strong, and it just doesn't go to 5000 RPM. It goes to 5500 RPM, and of course, you know, the 8-speed gearbox happens to be really slick shifting. It's fast with shifts. It's a torque converter gearbox, which not only is very refined, but gets you the right gear all the given time. So 0 to 100 kilometers per hour takes 6.5 seconds. The top speed happens to be 230 kilometers per hour, but it's not about the top speed or the outright acceleration. It is the in-gear acceleration as well, which is so brisk in the X5. This diesel motor is supremely refined. It gets vocal past the mid-range, but still it doesn't get vocal in a diesel-y way. It gets vocal in a sporty way, and if you're into, you know, sporty driving, if you like, you know, the sound of a sporty engine, you will actually appreciate the engine of the X5 diesel, because it does have a nice tune to it, or rather a nice tone to it. Overall performance is really very nice for a car which weighs 2200 kgs, in spite of, you know, apparently having weight saving due to the new cluster architecture, or rather the CLAR, which is also used on various other BMW cars, the latest being the 3 Series. The same platform, or rather the same underpinnings or the basic architecture is used with the 5 Series, with the 7 Series, now with the 3 Series, as well as the X5 and the X7. So yeah, a modular platform which certainly helps the part in terms of weight saving. However, this is a very heavy car. This is also a very wide car, which means that it can become a bit difficult to drive this vehicle in the city, especially parking can be a bit of a pain in your rear. However, that said, let me tell you that there's a big difference in the way the car drives between the various modes on offer. Now, of course, being a BMW, there are 6 drive modes. There's Eco Pro, which gets its individual setting. In the individual setting, you can obviously decide how you want the coasting function to be, how you want the lights to work. In fact, outside rear view mirror heating can also be shut in order to conserve fuel. That is, of course, the Eco Pro mode. Then there is the Comfort, which is just having one setting. There is no Comfort Plus on offer here. And there's the Sport, which also gets its individual setting. What all is tweaked from these settings? Well, there are 4 parameters. There's the engine, there's the gear gearbox, and of course there's the steering as well as the dampers, or rather the suspension, because this car runs on an air suspension system. Now it gets a twin axle air suspension system. The earlier X5 only had it at the rear. This one has it both at the rear as well as the front. That's the reason why you also get the lift function now, and you can decide between 5 ground clearance settings. In sport mode, the car actually squats 20 mm closer to the ground to give you a better driving feel. And the best part about this vehicle is that between Eco Pro or Comfort and sport mode, there is a big difference. Who gives launch control in a vehicle which weighs 2200 kgs? Well, BMW does that, and this launch control is there in every BMW car. It's a good thing actually. So these 4 parameters are changed between the various modes, and trust me, it makes a big difference. In comfort mode, the car is a bit too floaty for my liking. Yes, the air suspension actually loosens up the springs or other dampers, and it makes the car really waft along, which is both a good and bad thing, because there is some amount of vertical movement, which happens to be the bad thing. Good thing is it's really very compliant. Now when you get into sport mode, it stiffens up, and obviously it drops down the ride height as well. It becomes better for sporty driving, also becomes better on expansion joints, because that bounce and vertical movement is reduced to a certain extent. That said, this car still has some amount of body roll, and you cannot get away from the dimensions of this vehicle. But for an SUV, it drives really very well. It's extremely sure-footed, it's extremely confidence-inspiring, and the steering does weigh up quite a bit as well at higher speed. Yes, it is a bit soft when compared to its predecessor, the F15 X5. Meanwhile, this G05 model certainly feels much more comfortable and easier to drive, and although the dimensions are massive, which you have to take care of, you don't really feel the heft while driving, because the steering is on the lighter side. In fact, the steering feel has actually reduced from the previous generation model. So has a tighter body roll which was there on the previous generation model. This one doesn't feel as tight, however it does feel very sure-footed at higher speeds. There's acres and acres and acres of grip on offer around the corners, but there's body roll as well, and the steering feedback, although very good at the straight ahead position and overall is also fantastic, could have been slightly better. It again isn't in the same league as the Porsche Cayenne, but then there's no other SUV I can mention which is better than the Cayenne, which means this is the second best SUV as far as handling characteristics go. Now many of you would say, what about that Bull from Italy? Well, that is not an SUV, that's a super SUV, and it's actually not even a super SUV, it's just a jacked up sports car, because that is what the Lamborghini Urus is. Anyways, we will talk about the Urus when we drive the X5M or the X6M. For the time being, let's focus on this BMW, which is astoundingly sure-footed at higher speeds. No matter how wet the road is, there is no aquaplaning, no matter how hard you drive or how fast you drive, because the level of grip from this vehicle is just mind-bogglingly phenomenal. And that's thanks to the XDrive system, which is able to channel power to the right wheel at the right time. But more importantly, it is the size of the wheels, which is absolutely monstrous. It runs a 305 section tire at the rear. That is so big. Trust me, it's a massive tire, and because of obviously the bigger tires, there's some amount of wobbly feel at certain speeds, especially over bad roads, like real bad roads. I'm not talking about bad roads, I'm talking about real bad roads. The car does crash in, but on moderate bad roads, it just glides through. Such is the level of comfort on offer, such is the improvement in ride quality for the X5. It is absolutely sensational. And the brakes, they are also very sure-footed. Get hard onto the brakes, the car stops dead in its line. No nervousness, nothing of that sort. Now let me tell you that this amazing ride quality and driving feel is only achieved in sport mode. In comfort mode, again, you know, the car tends to lose its rear somehow. I don't know how that's happening, but it tends to lose its rear if you try to push it a little bit harder. Now obviously power is being channeled more to the rear wheels than to the front, but for the most part I would say the balance is great and will be appreciated by most owners, or rather most SUV fans. BMW owners and fans might not really like the fact that the X5 has also gone soft now. How does BMW manage to make a car which doesn't feel its weight? You can't feel it weighs 2.2 tons. You can't feel the size of this vehicle. Like freaking more than 2 meters wide. That is a very wide vehicle. Almost 5 meters long in terms of length. The tires really work well on this car. Good amount of grip. Now obviously you can take it off-road as well. The XDrive system works beautifully well too, and since you can raise the ground clearance of this vehicle, that also bodes really well off the road too. But that said, it is still a soft roader, and it cannot match, say, the Land Rovers difference in terms of off-road ability, because this is a car which is more intended towards sporty driving than hardcore off-road ability, but it can do a lot off-road as well, much more than most SUVs can. That said, the whole balance between everything, right from comfort, handling, off-road ability, high-speed stability and performance is surreal. This straight six motor is such a freaking bomb. Every time BMW launches a car, or rather a new car with this engine, it keeps getting better and better and better. It's like wine. This motor is like wine. It just keeps thirsty. This engine has just got so much better. So has the gearbox. I mean, they have been adapting it really very well, and I love the way how this motor offers the best of both worlds. And when I talk about best of both worlds, not only is it very fast, blisteringly quick and has a soul to it, most importantly it's quite frugal as well. It returns a fuel economy of around 10 kilometers per liter, which when paired to the massive fuel tank capacity of 85 liters gives it a considerable tank range. In fact, on full tank, the tank range is above 800 kilometers, which honestly is quite a lot, although mileage does dip to single digit figures when you drive in the city and when you get hard onto the gas, because this is a car which really responds much more when you're in sport mode, and obviously it guzzles slightly more in sport mode too, but it is a different characteristic altogether between, say, Eco Pro and Comfort and the sport mode too. Now there's another fourth driving mode which is known as adaptive, which actually adapts to your driving style. Now it's best to individually configure it in sport mode, but that said, you can also click on adaptive and let the car decide for you, although it really doesn't do as great a job as I would have expected it to. And no matter how comfortable BMW tries to make its cars, there is no freaking denying the fact that there is always going to be that shove in the pants feel. The kick in the pants feel is still there in this engine. As soon as you get hard onto the throttle, it will push you back, and that puts a massive smile on your face. It scares you silly, and when it scares you silly, you smile harder and faster with the fear on your face and your eyes actually rolling, thinking what's going to happen next. I know this English has got so complicated that Annabelle is like, what are you talking? Is it? Yeah, so we'll translate it for you later. That said, guys, the BMW X5 sure has become expensive now. There are three variants on offer. There is the entry level XDrive30d, which comes in a sport trim. Yeah, a sport trim, which is priced at rupees 88 lakhs on road Mumbai. Then there happens to be the petrol, which is only available in the M Sport. There is no M Sport for the diesel yet. There is the XDrive30d xLine, which is this car, which is priced almost at rupees 1 crore, and the petrol model actually comes 2 lakhs less at around 98 lakhs. Yes, it has become expensive, but the X5 is by far the best BMW SUV in the market. Not as big as the X7, still having a smaller grille than the X7, although the grille will also become bigger now, but you know, considerably more potent than the X3s and the X4s. However, that said, I'm really waiting for the X5, and that would be an absolute sensation. But as I see it, the extra price premium you pay for this model, the new X5, rather the 4th generation X5, is completely worth it. Meanwhile, we have an A6. That's an A6. That's a freaking A6. फोटो निकालो अपने फोन से, फोटो निकालो. That's a freaking A6. The new A6 is being tested. It's a 45 TFSI. Look at those lights. They're mind-bogglingly awesome. Oh my god. Okay, that's a petrol model. Actually, Audi is not going to bring in a diesel, I believe, but the car looks absolutely sensational. Those lights, I was like, is that a Lexus? Sideways. ऐसे निकालो. हाँ, लो साइड से फोटो. फ्रंट ले. ऐसे लो, ऐसे. हाँ, फ्रंट फोटो लो ना. फोटो. लो. So right now, as you can see, that A6 is trying to run, and we were taking some photos of the car. So that guy saw it. He got full on the throttle, left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, and here we go. He went. And anyways, bye-bye A6. I will see you later, because the launch is going to happen real soon. I'm going to drive it, and let's hope they give a very powerful engine as well. A6. And you were like, you know, let's not come to it. It's raining too much. Camera टेढ़ा हो गया ना. I love the sporty snarl of the motor. So guys, this is my vlog of the BMW X5, the 4th generation model, and believe you me, it is absolutely sensational as far as comfort, luxury, features and appearance goes as well. Although some of the appearance bits could have been slightly better, but those 20-inch wheels are absolutely smoking hot too. And if you like this video, you know what you have to do. Give it a thumbs up, that's the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. What do you think about the car?
X7.
Neha is like, you know, she wants to buy an X7 instead of the X5. The X7 is so big, the grill is so big that I'm going to make tandoori chicken on it. I've already said everything. Bye bye.